I said that I needed to also change my shirt.
Oh,
I gave you awareness of my lateness.
Sorry, I was just making sure, because then you started sending pictures of salsa, and I was questioning.
I am sharing my heart with you. Here it is. It's a salsa. Jeez, Louise. Hello. How are you?
I am so busy with trying to make a new website, and it's very stressful.
Great. Let's spend an hour talking about it. You see how quickly we transitioned into that? That was, okay. So what's hard about making a website, Sam?
Well, a lot of my current site has been behind the scenes usefulness, like pricing guides, engagement session FAQs, just all these little like client assets that float around, and I'm going to need to completely remake for the new site, and it's a pain in the butt, because everything looks good on the new site. It's just tedious to, first of all, like keep track of all the important pages, because I forget about some, and I don't know. It's a lot.
How many pages do you have?
A
like
lot.
Hidden pages, your little lift.
Well, probably only a dozen. That's not even the hard part. It's also they copied over all of my old blog posts and pages and stuff like that, but I have to go through and nudge some of the details so that things like thumbnails show up, because in certain areas now they're square, and it does look better, but I need to make sure the crops are all correct, because I'm a photographer, and if it was originally a vertical picture or something like that in the post, and now it's a square, that those kinds of details, I have to manually get through. So it's all about kind of figuring out a super efficient workflow, especially for the stuff where it's like, oh, I've got 400 posts I need to go back through and tidy up. Like, I need to make sure the tediousness is as small as possible, basically. I don't know. It's just stuff like that. And then it's the stress of having to write and basically create a whole new version of my brand and my voice. I'm still going to take a lot of the same things I had written out on my current site and move it over, but they kind of have to be rewritten for length, because it's in a different physical area now on the page, so it doesn't look as good if it's too short or too long, stuff like that. And then, for example, the font color is a really dark color on like the main header. Totally fine, but I can't have dark photos underneath it, or it just doesn't pop. You lose, some of the letters. Things like that are just such a pain. But it's fun in a way, but it's just tiring. I'm not used to having to work this much.
Which is a wild thing to hear you say, since you work more than anyone I know.
But here's the thing. Almost everything I do in my work has a process and an established workflow. I know exactly what needs to get done and how I'm going to do it. With this website, that's all out the window. It's everywhere. I have to do so much, and it's stuff that I never need to do again and haven't done since I made my last site. So it's just a pain. It's just new. So it feels a lot more like actual work, because I'm having to use my brain. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it makes sense. I help people make websites all the time, Sam. That's how I got through the recession.
Yeah.
Fun Daniel fact. I designed websites by going door to door. And I would walk into a small business and be like, hi, your website is bad. I can make it better for $1,000. And most people were like, no, you can't leave. And I was like, okay, well, fair you say.
I'm surprised more photographers don't do that, that are like interested in commercial work or something. Just approach a business that you see has really poor photos of their food, and see what happens. You're right. Like, I'm sure 9 times out of 10 they'll say no, we don't have the money, we're not interested. But
sometimes they say yes.
Yeah.
And then you get to pay rent. And that's how I made it through the recession, just door to door, building websites all through Chicago and Austin.
What, 2008, 2010? How many years did you do?
2009 and 2010. So right after I left photography professionally and like stopped shooting And, like, oh, now what am I going to do? All the marketing jobs disappeared. Tech wasn't really hiring at the moment, especially for outsider folks that weren't in New York or San Francisco. And I said to myself, you know how to build a Squarespace website. Squarespace, build it beautiful. Brought to you by Squarespace.
Yeah, so you must have been early, because Squarespace wasn't like really
Squarespace version 4.
Wow.
They're currently on 7.1 or something. Early guy. Someone said it's like WordPress, but it's easy to use and pretty. And I said, great, I'll use it forever. And that was me, like 12 years ago, just deciding something, and now I'm stuck with it forever.
Yeah, that's sort of why I'm back on WordPress. Plus, I like the more advanced functionality, because my current site, I did evolve it to do a lot more than was originally designed for. And WordPress, I think, I just don't have enough experience with the Squarespace to have a solid opinion on this, but seems like WordPress made a lot of things possible that Squarespace probably would not have been able to do. And I say that, I can't even think of what that might be, but I guess.
But it's there, maybe, probably. Once upon a time.
You're on a desktop, right? So can I send you, I'm curious for some real-time feedback here, if I send you the current homepage. The copy is
not going to be done. Because I haven't done it yet.
But some that's true. But some elements I think I'm really happy with. I don't know what it is about this phrase for creatives in love, but it's been in my Instagram bio forever. I had like a whole set of branding made for it. I think I at one point was thinking about using it as sort of the name of a studio if I was going to have associate photographers under more of an umbrella. It was literally just going to be called For Creatives in Love. I think it's a good phrase, and it cuts through, obviously I want to photograph people in love and getting married, or maybe not getting married, but just, couples. And it, emphasizes the fact that I want to work with somebody who thinks of themselves as creative, not a creator, just a creative person.
What's your split? Like, I know you don't know this for sure, but like, what's your vibe of the split of a creative profession working with you? So like another photographer, designer, artist, whomever, or a lawyer? That's
a good question. I get a lot of lawyers, and I do wonder if it, leaning into that phrase on my website or brand, overall, aside from just my Instagram bio, would turn people away. They're like, well, I'm not a creator. I'm not a painter, so I'm not going to hire him. Do you think they would turn somebody who's just like a lawyer?
So, I mean, here's the thing. Here's the dirty little content secret that I don't want to spoil, but I'm gonna, just for you. It's all made up. It's all made up, bro. Bruh. Sorry, I've been playing a lot of Diablo 4 with my best friend's teens.
Did you see the ad for that in New York?
I did.
With on Reddit.
Yeah, the welcome to hell, New York City, while the air was poison. Yeah, I remember it like it was a few days ago. Man, this last week has been brutal.
Yes.
So it's all made up. Right, so like content's kind of made up. You just have to pick a lane and then kind of stick to it, right? So like if the angle is creatives, then that's where we kind of need to point to with all the minutia, right? Because there's so much content that gets written within a website. There is the copy, right? The user-facing copy. There is the interface copy, right? So like your contact me button, your get in touch button, your click here, like what that copy says. There's the support documentation, which is like all your FAQs about how engagement sessions work or what they can expect, right? After they book you. Do you provide booking on your website, right? Like in a secret page. I know you can't like book you on a calendar on your website, but like
correct. It's a separate, it is an online thing, but it's completely separate from my website. It's a CRM called ShootQ. So I basically start a new email thread where I send a link to that proposal, and it's all sort of.
Can you say that name one more time?
ShootQ.
ShootQ?
Yeah.
Cute? Q.
Just
okay.
Q, like the Q.
I heard cute, and I was like, mute. Is this a meet cute? You're doing a meet cute? That's a hard. Whatever words you choose for your name. This is just general naming advice for our lovely listeners. It should be easy to say in your mouth.
Oh my gosh, 100%. I can't tell you how many people whose Instagram handles I'm like, this is the worst name ever, because you have to spell it every time. If it's not like obvious how it's spelled, and you have to think about it for even a half second. It's like, get a new Instagram handle.
Can I share with you my depressing Instagram handle story very quickly before we return to your content?
Yes, because I want to talk about the contact me copy.
Yeah, when I signed up for Instagram, I signed up on day one, right? I followed a handful of photographers that were on there. They were like, "Hey, I've been testing this. It was called Bourbon. Now it's called Instagram. It's out today. Let's go." It was called what originally? I was like, Bourbon.
Bourbon.
Yeah,
wow.
Bourbon. BURBN, I believe. Bourbon. I don't remember why. Instagram was named on a platform that I used to help market and sell called a domainer, domainr.com, back when we just dropped a vowel and that's how you named a thing. Yeah. Because Instagram originally, before they had enough money to buy Instagram.com, had Instagram.am, and they found that name on Domainer, which was incredible in sales meetings. I could just roll into a meeting and be like, "Hey, Instagram was named on our platform. What do you want named on yours?" Anyway, so I signed up very quickly and tried to get Daniel, didn't exist. Tried to get D, didn't exist. And then I tried DA, and it worked. My initials, DA. Ba-ba! And so I was at DA on Instagram for the first year and a half. Lovely time.
Wow.
And then they released comment mentions. And immediately my phone became unusable. Like just a hot rock from the sun, hundreds of notifications every hour.
Yeah.
Because people were accidentally typing, "I'm at the club," or "I'm at the grocery store," or whatever.
That's so unfortunate.
Yeah. So I should have kept it and just set it somewhere else and switched to a different one and had it. But I wasn't thinking, I didn't care, and I was just mad that my phone was hot and unusable, so I just changed it to my regular Daniel EAG. Let it go back into the world. That was my mistake.
That's the problem. If it's a business, obviously if it's just your personal account, whatever, but not knowing that AG is spelled with two E's, you would have to constantly remind people of that. There's another photographer, and so often photographers just name their business after their own name. And there's a great photographer who I've become friends with over the years.
About to shit talk someone's last name.
Yeah, well, it's just like his name is Russell something. I forget his last name, but it's Russell, but it's spelled with two L's. And it's like, gosh, that is so... Nobody's going to be able to find you unless you spell it. Is that not how
you spell Russell? Oh, no, it's two S's. Right. Okay.
Two S's.
I was like, Sam, that's not that weird. That's just a name.
It is weird. Well, I mean, maybe it's not weird. I don't know what in my experience, I've only ever seen it, I think, with one L, but I guess I've never paid that close attention. Point is, you got to keep it just as simple as you possibly can. I am the Sam. I really wish I could just do I am Sam, but some rando took it.
How dare they? We can talk about Instagram handle purchase strategies later. So this content, we've got it. So for creatives in love, if that's your thing, that's great.
Yeah, I'm open to changing that. I think it looks good visually on a desktop. I'm still waiting for the mobile version to be tweaked. I have a feeling it might be too much on a tiny little screen. We'll see how it gets formatted. But a few tweaks. One, the images there on this is great podcast stuff, by the way, for listeners. My homepage is very, very minimal at the start, like the very, very top. And it's got a carousel of as many images as I want. I was going to put maybe 6 or maybe 10, I don't know, from all different kinds of weddings. And I want to try and, my portfolio now, I think, is fairly balanced in terms of representation, at least given what I've had to shoot so far in my career. And I try and pull something from, for everyone. But that carousel, I really want to be what's the word? Autoplay, because it's not obvious to like find the little arrow and click. But I'm still playing around with the images that are going to be on there. Most of those.
Are you going to link it to their post or their?
No, that is really just meant to be a eye-catching thing. It's the next ones down as you scroll that will link. So like elopement, Rome, Italy, that will link to that blog post. So I was thinking 2 or 3 images there to link to full kind of in longer form blog posts, so people can get a little bit more of a comprehensive vibe. And then,
oh man, I hate this sentence, but we're gonna have to destroy your footer.
My footer? Reach out for availability.
Footers. Well, just in general.
I do
so
too.
like,
I hate that. I don't know what to say other than contact me.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
make it enticing.
What you should say would be weddings in New York City, and then link to a couple of weddings in New York City, and then weddings in Washington D.C. DMV area. Link to a couple of those.
Yeah.
Rinse, repeat. The 3 or 4 metro areas that you want to be talking to, and types of shots. So you could have it be New York City engagement, New York City weddings in one column, and then the next column would be, Washington, D.C., DMV, and then link there. That is an unfortunate, disgusting SEO trick. One of the few that will consistently work across all time, right? A general SEO phrase that someone could say, a SEO professional would be, show me your footer and I'll show you how good your SEO is. Right, like, because that's where a lot of the robots go to read things. Will be the sitemap and the footer. So, because your footer is the same on every page. Anyway, that's one of my 4 bits of SEO that I know, because that's its own hellscape. We should have someone like Dylan Howell to talk about SEO.
I was thinking of bringing him into this at this stage, now that I have the actual thing coded, to get some recommendations. But SEO, I just don't know that it's complicated as people make it out to be. There's like you said, maybe 1, 2 key things. No, there's probably like 4 or 5 key things to like do every time, and then it just kind of is what it is.
So there are there are a lot of thought processes around this, and there are people who will tell you that it is that complicated and that you need to pay them $8,000 a month for the next 6 months while they do a bunch of optimization. Those people are selling you something. The people that tell you there are 4 to 5 things that you need to do really well in order to get 80 to 90% of the way there are telling the truth. So so SEO in general,
I'm just guessing. That's what it feels like to me, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where like you're improving past those handful of things, like having a really strong footer that has links to the specific keywords and the specific metro areas that you want to shoot in, right? Like that's a strong signal for robots and people that are like, oh yeah, Sam shoots in New York all the time. Sam, like I would not have something like the Pacific Northwest in my footer, because I don't want to shoot weddings in Portland, right? Totally. Like I'm happy to shoot a Portland wedding, but a Portland wedding is an additional, 15 hours of travel and staying a night in a hotel and far away versus driving somewhere for an hour or 2, that sort of thing, right? So like it's important to know your targeted metro areas in there. But then there are other things like alt image descriptions, right? Like alt text image descriptions matter. It helps a lot with cataloging your images, and Google, you'll have more information to give Google, which will then index higher. So once you do a handful of those things, you reach a point where you're kind of optimizing on the margins of, like what's going to get me 0.25% better, a 0.5% better. And depending on how well you do and how well you're already doing, given the content that you're regularly producing, such as blog posts or social media content that pushes back, or, like creating backlinks with your Patreon to your education section of the website, that that sort of thing. Like, depending on what other good practices you're doing, you might not even get that 0.25%. You might be getting an 1/8 or a 16th or a 32nd. So then it's like, oh, now we've lost, you kind of lost the plot on this being worth the effort and time.
Totally.
And so you have those like handful of things that you got to get right. And then on top of that, you need to have some version of consistency, right? So like this isn't a real problem for you because you are good at blogging. Most people aren't. Most people have that as a large task. And there are better things that you can do within your blog to set up your website for SEO success, right?
Like, for sure. Yeah.
Like there's a specific number of images. Well, everyone. Right? Like,
yeah.
In general. But it is more important to have a poorly set up blog that you regularly update than a perfectly set up blog that you update once a quarter, right? So like
100% feels right. Like it's without a doubt, if I blog something, I will get inquiries just randomly over the next couple days. If I put something on Instagram, no, there is no pattern that I've been able to detect of. When I post something on Instagram, I get inquiries. Every time I blog, I will get new inquiries, and it's not even because of that blog post. I think, like you said, something in Google's crazy algorithms you just surface higher in the results for a period of time because the content is newer, and maybe not even that specific blog post, it seems like. But
I really love that we started a podcast and named it Endless Appreciation, and now we've accidentally just talked about how algorithms are destroying our lives for like 20 episodes.
Yes.
Just
great.
Straight. Oh my God. I'm gonna email Kyle from the New Yorker, who just wrote a book about algorithms, and see if he wants to come on, have a little chit chat.
Wonderful.
That'll be great. He can tell us very specifically about how they're destroying our brains. So boy. Getting the content updated regularly is really important versus a homepage you want to have a little bit more static, a little bit more stable.
Totally.
So you have images and posts, right? Like permalinks to the posts that you're regularly updating showing up, but you don't want to rapidly shift your homepage once a week, right? Like,
yeah, makes sense.
If you are set up for it, you can and should do some version of A/B testing, but even then, it's kind of hard to really nail down the specifics with the number of inquiries you get, right? Like, I assume you're relatively close to fully booked year over year, but even then, we're talking how many inquiries do you think you get a year? Like 250, 300?
Oh yeah, that sounds right. I guess I could pull it up in SheetQ. Unfortunately, I switched over.
Really hate that name.
They launched a complete. It's not the best name, and it's really like the first of its kind for like photography studios. So it's been around longer than everything else, and I'm just stuck on it because all my stuff is in there. And they relaunched maybe a couple years ago an entirely new. They just rewrote basically the entire system, and all my data is still, like all the really long-term stuff is still in the old system. So it's kind of annoying. I only have like a year's worth of inquiries to really like dive into on the new platform. Does that make sense? Because it took about a year of keeping the old one up while switching to the new one and blah.
So you have your website, right? Like your website says, contact me for more information. They send you an email. You check if you have the date available. You check, whatever. You send over your basic pricing schedule because you don't have your full pricing on your website, right? Like that's
correct,
a hidden
just the
thing.
starting. Yeah, and I was back and forth on that. A lot of people will have opinions strongly in either
there's
camp.
no good answer here, right? Like,
but it's my thing, though, my belief that it's really important with pricing to be consistent, and people often inquire and end up booking like a year out, and there's a really good chance that I will play around with being a little more expensive, maybe a little cheaper, include different things in packages. And if that's just visible to anybody that maybe booked me and then sees that like I offer an extra hour in my current package, like why can't I just do that for them because their wedding is in 8 months, something like that. I just want the starting price to be prominently featured somewhere. I'm putting together a new updated FAQ page, and that is enough of a filter to then send the it's not hard to find. You could probably even, I don't even know if I removed it from Google search results. If you Googled Sam Hurd photography pricing, it'd probably be there. But it's just my thought that I don't want people having an inconsistent sense of what I charge and what's included. And that changes enough that I think it's important to keep it hidden.
Man, I am so excited for you to have a new website. I just clicked through to the first page that was there, and it looks dated, looks old. This is going to be an exciting time to get this
out. What, my old website?
Yeah, your current website looks old, feels old.
It is. It's like before, it was a big deal that it was even like responsive for mobile. It was before mobile was like even an important thing at all. So yeah, I'm excited.
You have a young man's font size on that website, right? Like
yeah, that's a good
I squinted a little
that
to
has always
see it.
Bugged me a bit. Yeah, the tiny font.
one of my biggest pro tips on all web design and all usability content stuff is your type is too small, make it bigger, right? Like 18 pixel or 18 points, whatever, 18. Tell your little CSS 18 or higher, and that's great. It's like a. It's just better. It's just better. We should be able to read without going, no eye strain to read your copy.
Agreed.
It'll feel bad.
It feels good on the new site, whatever. Let me pop into the first blog post I made. But yeah, it seems like it's a good size. I'm not sure if it's 18, but I only have one. It's a good size.
I mean, we can check. I can inspect this element to tell you that it's too small because it's 16.
Oh, it is 16?
Yeah, your body copy's 16.
My old site must be like 12.
It's like 9. It's a little baby. Yeah, it's like footer text that just happens to be everywhere. It's like a subnote, like a little.
Well, it's not going to matter anyway once we're all wearing our Apple Vision Pro headsets with giant theater-size projections.
I am not engaging with Apple
segueing?
Vision Pro content until we have a little bit more information.
There's a lot actually that was shared in the talk show live stream with John Gruber. He does like an after show.
Oh, John Gruber. I haven't heard of him.
Yeah,
Who's John Gruber?
Well, I just watched it. I'm only about halfway through, but he went into a lot of detail about how mind-blowing it was that the cameras that pick up all of your environment around you represent that in the display perfectly. He said it is no different than looking with your own eyes. That is pretty mind-blowing to me. And he's not the type of person to exaggerate, be hyperbolic in a way that it's like it's perfect, but he seems usually pretty reserved, and he was very clear that this looks exactly like you're just looking at your surroundings with your own eyes, and then it perfectly visualizes that, which I'm very impressed by because the Oculus is bad. It's like a low-res render. A bad company made a bad product. Yeah. What a shock. Yeah. Fair.
No,
okay, we don't have to talk about it if you want, but I'm pretty excited.
No, I
wasn't at first.
I'm
now
very excited to talk about it. I'm just not excited to talk about it right now. We have more important things like your website copy.
Well,
right?
this is an interesting thing to think about in terms of the changing landscape of what the internet looks like and how it is, and this is
right. But you're going to be on another website before that matters, right? Like the first time that someone books a wedding with you via Apple Vision Pro headset is going to be
fair.
A ways off, right?
You're
like. Right. One of the 100,000 people that buy the first one are not going to be buying the... It's going to be more than that. It's going to be so much more than that. They're going to sell so many.
Oh, they really are. Yeah.
But we're not going to engage in that because we don't know what we're doing with it. We don't know what anyone's doing with it because they were literally like, yeah, here's what clips look like and here's a fun 3D that hardware is better than everyone else's. It's like, well, yeah, no shit, guys. That's what you do. Yeah, but like, let's get that software finished. Let's get it in the hands of people.
I'm impressed it doesn't even have controllers. It is, I mean, because the Oculus will let you put the controller down. Again.
I just kept saying we're not going to talk about it yet.
Okay.
And you were like, no more. I want to talk about it more.
Let's not. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about my website because it's just stressing me out to even look at all the pages I have to make. It's just, so much work.
Well, so you have two separate audiences on your new website, which I think is an interesting thing to talk about, right? Because you have your photo section where you are Sam Hurd. I'm a wedding photographer. Let me take your wedding photos. And then you have your education section, which is I'm Sam Hurd.
And I'm not totally sold on that word, by the way. I do worry that, because I always want the potential wedding clients to be like the priority, like clearly what I do requires them. And I don't want them to be confused by, education. Okay, I'm going to click that because I want to find out more about his wedding photography for clients. And they'll be dumped into a stream of Patreon posts and all this other stuff. And I'm worried that the word education isn't clear enough, that it's like for photographers, but it needs to be one word, just given the design of maybe two could fit, but it can't be very long.
But it needs to be 12 characters or less. Yeah. So
maybe I'm overthinking that. Maybe it's clear. One of the reasons I've always liked doing educational stuff is that I do think it reinforces confidence in potential wedding clients as, he reviews a lot of camera stuff. He must be pretty good and must know what he's talking about. He's teaching workshops. Yeah,
he's clearly, he's so good that he's teaching other photographers how to take wedding photos, right? Like that means we're getting the best of the best here. What's $5,000 for this wedding? Let's do it. He's good, right? That makes sense to me.
Also, I need to sit down and really think about pricing. Most people, like really not very good photographers around here, they really do start closer to $6,000, which is just crazy.
So, I mean, we were talking a couple of weeks ago at the very end of the episode where I mentioned that I was thinking of starting to take photos again professionally and do the occasional professional shoot. And through me thinking about that and like, maybe I'll just shoot a wedding or two, right? Like, no big deal. Like, it's an easy thing to just have weddings fall into your lap, right? Like, it's not an entire website overhaul. It's not second shooting for you and everyone else I've ever met for like a year to get back into it, get an active portfolio. Last wedding I shot was over 5 years ago, right? Like, there's not a lot of...
Yeah. And not much for you to do. No, it's
easy breezy.
Easy. Just a wedding or two.
Slot in and then, buy a new car with my earnings. Easy breezy. That's what I thought. But then I remembered, that list I just gave you. But as I was researching, I was like, holy shit, wedding photography has gotten expensive, was my first thought. My second thought was literally, Sam is not charging enough. And... thank God Sam is not charging enough. I don't know. There's like, I
get that a lot, that I don't charge enough, but it doesn't feel right to charge more. And I know everything about price. Like, I understand that people have more money than I do, and people...
How much? What would you pay? What's your...
I would pay $5, exactly what I charge.
Exactly,
for like 8 hours, show up, do super pro job, done. Yeah, I would pay that. I think.
Well, I cheated because I had a cousin of mine who's a lovely photographer. Her name is Jocelyn. She just retired. Congratulations, Jocelyn. You deserve it. Friend of the show, maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. If she texts me next week and says, "Hey, thank you for the congratulations," then she is a friend of the show. But she shot our wedding as an engagement gift, a wedding gift. She shot it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Which ruled, because it allowed us to keep our entire wedding under $5,000 for the whole thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I lurk a lot of wedding planning subreddits and stuff like that. So I see, which is generally the bride side of the conversation in terms of budgets and all of that. Given my experience and quality of photos and everything else, I should probably be starting closer to 7,500, but I just know that is going to cut off a huge number of people that can no longer afford me, and that is going to shift the environments that I'm shooting in. Not just the people and personalities, but the physical spaces are going to be not as interesting and diversified, I guess.
A country club wedding is a grim wedding to shoot, right? Yeah. The majority of the people are showing up in their, especially on like East Coast DMV country club wedding, when everyone's showing up in their military blues. Like everyone's walking around with a sword and like many metals are clanking, catching light. The worst wedding I've ever shot was a country club wedding for a colonel in the Marines. And it was just like, it wasn't, I say worst, it was beautiful and wonderful. It was just, I had never felt like such a commercial photographer before, right? Like that was like the first, like show up, do your thing, leave. There's no creativity involved. You're just photographing, the wealth, right? Like here they are riding in their chariot. Here they are leaving in, their 911 from the 70s, right? Like a fancy ass Porsche, right? There's so much. I was just like, what is going on? Like, I didn't realize colonels made that much, but I'm pretty sure someone else in the family also had additional cash.
Well, that's the other thing to keep in mind. Like the wedding market is a weird thing to price because, a lot of people are blaming this year and a slowdown in their business on something kind of more economy related. And I don't know that I buy that so much. It certainly is a factor for a lot of people that, inflation is pretty intense right now, but people save and plan for wedding expenses for years. It's not like they wake up and, some maybe do, but like people really do save. It's a very insulated type of market, in my opinion, compared to most other really expensive luxury type of goods where you don't, maybe you do save for insanely expensive stuff, but anyway, the other thing is this area is so full geographically of federal jobs that are really well paying and people never get fired and they typically get pretty good raises. It's also a very insulated market in terms of price sensitivity, I think. But, where was I going with that?
I think you were about to talk about how the actual problem with this being a down year in the wedding industry is because we've all gone to too many weddings in the last year because vaccines and COVID happened. Everyone got married. Everybody went to their weddings. And now everyone's like, God, I am not going to Karen's wedding this year. I'm over it. I'm over
people
weddings.
Are like, well, let's not have our wedding next year because we went to 50.
No one's going to come. Yeah. All of our money was just spent last year attending 7.
Oh, no. My other thing was going to be a lot of the cost of a wedding is split between more than just the couple. Not always, but a lot of times you have a parent from one side, parents from both sides, a special gift from an extended relative, whatever. There's a lot of avenues that people can, pull from to make it happen. Not to mention, people literally go into debt and take out loans for weddings, which is pretty intense. I don't recommend doing that.
Everything about as someone that has actively worked in the wedding industry, as someone who's thinking about rejoining it casually, moonlighting via, and as someone who actively appreciates you and everything you do, I benefit from the wedding industry every day. Mm-hmm. It's bananas. It is just... It's bananas. It should not cost that much money to get hitched.
Yes, I totally agree.
That's just how I feel.
But, it is a nice thing to be able to celebrate two people in that way. It's kind of like, the greatest.
I agree.
Yeah, it's important, but it is insane what things cost. Now, one thing I have noticed more recently is that the dresses people are wearing sometimes cost more than what I charge. And That I have a problem with. That makes me feel not good when I'm like, oh my God, this is a $7,000 wedding dress. Wow.
Is the problem that it's a $7,000 wedding dress, or is the problem that you didn't charge $7,000?
Yeah, no, right. I should be more expensive than the dress or the suit or the attire.
Right. That's there we go. 100%. That's your new contact question. How expensive is your dress? And that's just your starting price.
I will say one of the best things I did, and I didn't start until maybe just 2-3 years ago, is ask people. It's not a required field, but ask people what their budget is. And this is anecdotal, but far and away, it's right around the 5,000 mark. Rarely is it like 8,000 plus. Obviously, a lot of people could be convinced to spend more. I'm well aware that if somebody puts $5,000 as their budget, that's not necessarily the limit. But yeah, it does seem pretty consistently that range, and bumping up to 6, 7 plus is just. Whew.
I think there are also a lot of benefits here, right, around not pricing people out. Professionally, right, I run, I help run Glass. I am community and marketing, but I also run a content studio where I write content for people, right? Like I make web pages like this for people. We talk for an hour, 3, I throw together bad copy, give it to them. They pull out what they like. We rinse, repeat until we have something great. And I, my partner and I work with companies that are like single people, right? Like individuals just running a tiny school or a workshop or a, whatever, individual jewelry sales person. Sure. And then we also work with, like Fortune 500 companies like Papa John's or AT&T. One of the things that I've always done whenever I'm talking to people and pricing out business is I don't want money to get in the way of working on a thing I really care about, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why, like the amount of money that I would make if I was working at a VC-funded startup versus what I'm making at Glass is like worlds different, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't care because I care about this community and this thing and this portion of the internet more than I care about optimizing my monthly amount of income. And so, like I always did that when I was shooting portraits. I had a little line on like, hey, if you need headshots and you can't afford my $250 session fee on top, and then you get 1 or 3 photos that way, and then you can buy more. But if you can't afford that $250, just let me know. We can do a pay what you want. I literally had pay what you want .photography, and I would send that to them afterwards. And like I made, I don't know, like a couple $1,000 over the course of like 4 years of running that website. And it was fine, right? Like professionally, it was like, oh, that's fine. But the people I met and the people I photographed and the like stories I got to tell, and it was just a fun side thing, right? Like it was never going to be the main draw of my finances. It was never going to be the main thing. It was just a fun, like, I don't need.
Yeah.
There are times when it's not a worthwhile thing to be like, no, sorry, I have a very strict pricing sliding scale. If you don't fit on it, we don't get to work together, right?
That's something I've always found interesting is the concept of a sliding scale. I've always loved that. Therapists do it. Yep. Like it's not weird, but to try and do that somehow for a wedding client would be tough. Like, okay, how much do you make? Or what's your overall wedding budget here? Like, I would love to be able to pull that off somehow, but I've never seen anyone do it, and there's probably a really good reason for that. The other thing is just the perception of value and quality and professionalism. A lot of times, the more you charge, the better people think you are, which is absolutely not the case, but it's just part of being a human that people will always think that. And so saying, pay what you want, I think that a lot of people, but pay what you can, or pay what you can relative to how much you make, or what you're spending on the wedding. That would be a wonderful thing to figure out somehow.
I'm curious on how could we, now I'm thinking about how we could do that for you right now, right? It's like, okay, we step one is raise your prices to, a little closer for this upcoming season to, start at $6,000 or $7,500, whatever. And then include a line of like, I shoot 4 weddings a year at discounted rates for
I like that.
people
like the
who
condition of
need it.
The limit.
Right. And then so the contact form would have do you require, do you need to apply for the assistance or what? We would have to come up with a better name of like a pay what you can thing. Learn more. And then the learn more page would have the information, like your prices start at 6,000, but you understand that not everyone can afford that. You still want to work with people in love. You shoot 3 or 4 weddings a year. And then the stipulations are they have to be within, 100 miles of DC or whatever, right? Like you can't shoot a super discounted wedding in, Ohio or something. When you book a faraway wedding, you include travel per diem on top of the actual thing, right? So it's...
Yes.
They pay
it's mostly I don't charge for food costs and all that. I just kind of round up from whatever the flight and hotel costs are to be a little bit over that and just kind of eyeball it because I enjoy it usually the travel because again it's like I've been so many amazing interesting places, even places that aren't like an obvious destination to want to do a destination wedding, Dayton, Ohio, place like that. Like I would never otherwise go there, and it's so cool.
Dayton's
but anyway,
such a cool, weird little town.
I love the idea of saying up front, there's some flexibility here, but I do it a number of times in a year. But I guess then presenting, not only would it be very important to use the right words, but then presenting what the qualifications are would be very delicate as well. And I don't know what
I think what you would do, you would want to say like set what your bar is, set how low you can go, right? Because there are some people who, can't even do $5,000, right? Who can't do your baseline already.
Oh, totally.
That want to work with you, and that would be great to work with.
Yeah.
So I think you could frame it as like the minimum amount is $2,000 or $3,000, whatever, right? Like, say exactly what the minimum is. Anything above that, try to, hit me with what you can. So if that's 32 or 35 or whatever, great. Come this way. You're only doing this 3 or 4 times a year. 4 times, right? 1 for June, 1 for July, 1 for August, 1 for September, give or take. Make it an honor system thing, but like make it a long enough thing that if someone is taking advantage of it who could afford it, and still is going through this whole process and applying for it and talking to you, and then it's like, whatever, man. Like if you're going to spend an extra 8 hours putting forth the effort to save $1,000, like chances are you can't actually spend that $1,000, and you might fit into this a little better than you think.
I think I would be okay. Just honor system only would be fine. I'm sure somebody would take advantage somewhere, but yeah, it would be, I don't know, an interesting experiment for sure.
It's more on them than you, right? Like
totally.
If it's a thing you're comfortable doing, and chances are you're going to get more than 4 applicants.
Yeah.
So you could also make it a announcement post. So like you do the announcement of like, hey, I'm launching this pay what you can thing. We're starting in January. Applications are open through the end of February for these 4 weddings. Tell me your. Or you could even like pick the dates that you're available for, right? Like you can set as many parameters on this.
All of them need to be in February.
Right. I mean, like you could even say, I shoot at a discounted rate in February or whatever, right? Like you can.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of venues do that, and I do get that occasional question. Right now, I don't ever discount for the time of year, but it's a really interesting idea, and it does allow more flexibility with pushing prices higher, since there's still an avenue for. Yeah, I'm gonna have to sit down and start writing.
And then, like the reality is you're you're gonna make more money having your baseline higher, because like, you are correct. Everyone who's been telling you this is correct. The people that are hiring you at X amount can probably afford you at Y amount if it's not thousands and thousands and thousands more, even if it hurts a little, or even if there's a little bit of pain point there. But the people who can't afford you at your new amount are going to have trouble affording you here too, right? So like making that a larger delta and then making a way to serve.
Yeah, I think 3,000, if I reset starting price to 6, that's half off. I mean, that's a pretty good deal, and it's still significant enough money.
You could even say 3, right? Like, you don't even have to do a pay what you can. You can just say, hey, I shoot 5 or 4 weddings a year at 50% off. And then you could also include, I'm going to do weird stuff. Like, you have to promise to get weird with me, right? Yeah. We're going to get experimental. We're going to whatever.
That's a great point, actually. And it's something that passed me by, and I thought about 20 minutes ago when we were talking about something with my site. But I do like the headroom, knowing that I'm not charging as much as other people in general that are in my range in terms of professionalism and all that. Mentally does free me to get more experimental. For whatever reason, that's just always been a mental block. The more I started charging, the less I felt entitled to take risks and do whatever I want. But
I think you're in that. I think you're in that bottom of that bell curve, right? Because like as you keep going, right, when you're charging 10, 12, 15, it's like, okay, no, I need to give them exactly what they want. Everything's perfect. But there's the other side of that bell curve, right? Like, you get a $25,000 wedding, they're hiring you for a reason, and you can do whatever the hell you want. You could also include that. I shoot one $25,000 wedding a year flyer.
I have been very interested in the, quote, God, I hate this luxury market. It's mostly relationship based, it seems. Like, I think a lot of times the clients, and we've probably talked about this before on here, but a lot of the clients, they don't even know your name. It's all managed through a coordinator. And I don't like having my business tied to anybody else's responsibility. Like, I love referrals and I have great relationships with people that I work with, but it's all very professional and there's no give and take in that way at all. So point is, it's a fascinating space because a lot of the work is one sort of light and airy look, the Jose Villa look. That's how people photograph most, luxury weddings. And it's like such a shame because it doesn't need to be that way.
It's boring.
But unfortunately, it is. It's like once you get to that insane stratosphere of multiple tens of thousands of dollars for whatever reason, I never see anything interesting. It's always boring and safe, and it's fine. But those people that can afford them there must be more interesting people.
There's one incredibly wealthy person out there who is like, man, I wish someone would get weird as shit on my wedding photos. We're gonna find them for you.
I would even bet most people would, but it just isn't how the industry operates right now. So it would be.
We're gonna make a great SEO landing page for Sam Hurd luxury weddings starting at $25,000. Let's get weird together. That'll be your tagline. Let's get weird together.
At this point, I don't even find what I do that weird. It all feels
It's really not that weird. It's like you just do like nice, thoughtful compositions with like slightly different editing and reflections. Yeah. And like better posing than most.
Some people get weirded out by when like multiple colors, like the RGB effect or the CMYK effect that I do. But that's probably and I do, one of my favorite pictures is from actually a friend of mine's wedding, Evan, where they threw on like horse heads.
Yeah, horse heads are great.
That was awesome.
Everybody loves a horse head mask.
I love this idea. This is really interesting. So provides me some flexibility to not double, but raise my rate a significant amount. And it's really funny though. My engagement sessions have always been way expensive relative to what a lot of people would charge. Like a lot of people I observe around here that start $6,000-7,000 for a wedding package charge like $500 or something for an engagement session. I'm like, what is going on with that? That's so weird. I don't know how they have their pricing and packages all set up, but
they want the big fish, and that's an easier way to get the big fish.
Sure.
To severely discount an engagement session.
Yeah.
which was also the other way that I was going to break back into the industry. Just undercut everybody. $50 engagement.
Oh, God.
You just have to show up to the park. I'm going to take your photo from my window.
There are, yeah, I don't even get out of the car. There are photographers I've seen have great success with mini sessions where they specify the date and time and location, and it's a 20-minute shoot, and they book as many as they can back to back. So and it's very cheap, but super easy and efficient for the photographer because you are in one spot and everybody can knock it out. They do it a lot for families as well, just because a lot of family sessions.
Yeah, family sessions are a nightmare in general because managing children for more than 15 or 20 minutes is a nightmare.
Yeah, it's tough.
Terrible. Everyone wants a wardrobe change when a wardrobe change is always a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Everything drags longer. You can't but like you tell the kids you're showing up, you gotta look nice at a camera for 15 minutes, then you're getting ice cream. That's a win. Whoo, that's a win. Mm-hmm. Love that.
Yeah, family sessions are tough. Gratefully, the few that I do and have done are almost always with the same families. So the kids like know me now and stuff like that, which
I love that.
Really helps. Yeah.
Such horrible.
Yeah, it's really nice. I don't really advertise it much because it is a totally different beast.
Yeah, because you're not a family photographer. Yeah, that makes sense. This is wonderful. I'm very excited to continue to revisit this topic, both pricing and content, because both of these things are just we need more time and more effort put into the thing before we can talk about it more. But what a treat!
Totally, I like it.
This is fun when we get to talk about shit I know. Wow.
Yeah,
this is great. I love sounding smart. I really wrecked it. I ruined the illusion by being like, I love sounding smart at the end there. Yeah, that's a dead giveaway.
If you want. I'm excited to see what clips I can put together from this.
Whew. All right. Well, appreciate you.